Everything's garbage. I'm Hugh Hewitt. I'm joined by Andrew C. McCarthy, who's not garbage because I'm not sure if he's going to vote for Trump or not, but we know what the president said last night. Hi, Andy. How are you?
I'm trying to get over my emotional hurt over that slander last night. But
in case no one knows what we're talking about, I've condensed the Harris campaign and the Biden helping hand into 13 seconds. Here is the president last night, cut 21.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
All right, so Trump supporters are garbage, and here's Kamala Harris on the mall, cut 22.
I pledge to listen to experts, to those.
All right, Andy, let's start with the latter one first. 51 experts told us the laptop was fake. Jack Smith tells us the president had no immunity. The experts in New York tried to bankrupt Trump on the most ridiculous charges ever. Should she be appealing to expertise at this point in her campaign?
Well, no, but I don't. It's kind of like I don't know that anything she's done is what somebody who was a natural at this would do. I think she's getting a lot of bad advice from a lot of people who aren't the swiftest, but it's kind of like it's symmetrical in a way with this cleanup on aisle 5 effort to try to say that what Biden said was actually carefully calibrated and you have to listen to it and put the apostrophe in the right place. And then you have people like us who've been watching Joe Biden for half a century. You know, this is what he does. There's probably a million of these lines, and there's no doubt about what he said. And there's no doubt, really, that it's a window into what they think. It's a terrible election. Doesn't mean that she doesn't have a chance. But
absolutely not. She has a chance. But you're right about Joe Biden. Anyone who watches confirmation, he's mean. Remember the Princeton hat thing that he pulled on? I think it was Alito and the stuff.
Alito, right?
Yeah, he's just been mean and awful for decades.
Right. Going to put you all in chains.
I've forgotten that one. So let's go to Lawfare, Andy. I talked to former President Trump 10 days ago, and I asked him, are you going to pardon yourself or are you going to fire Jack Smith? He said, I'm going to fire Jack Smith in 2 seconds. What did you think of that answer?
Well, I think it's what we all expected. I think you and I probably talked a couple of weeks ago, and I said that if Trump was inaugurated at 12:05, that Jack was gone at 12:06. I mean, I don't see him. I think the interesting thing about that is, do you have to do the Saturday Night Massacre type thing where you go through the chain of command and fire everybody who won't carry out the president's order? I don't believe constitutionally you have to do that. I think he can just fire. If it's a political appointee, he can fire him. He doesn't need to go through a chain of command.
You're correct. Schedule A, DOJ. I don't know if you ever fired any lawyers at the Southern District who worked with you, Andy, but I saw lawyers fired all the time because they were bad lawyers. I think Jack Smith is actually a bad lawyer. He's made so many bad choices that are just, well, you tell me. Do you think he's a good lawyer?
I think he doesn't have, I don't think he's, I don't think there's anything dumb about him, but I do think, you learn over time some humility, and I've always thought the most important thing for a litigator is to be able to step into the other guy's shoes and understand what they're thinking and how the court is going to react to how you react. And I don't think he has that. He doesn't have that sort of check on himself. And most of the missteps he's made have been overzealousness. Like, for example, I think the worst mistake he's made, tactically speaking, you could talk about a lot of other things, including how he underestimated the immunity issue. But tactically, if your goal is to get Trump to trial and convict him before the election, then when you indict the Florida case, you indict it as a fast and nasty obstruction of justice that has a sort of classified documents angle to it, but you don't charge those counts because then you're in CIPA land, right? Classified Information Procedure Act, and you can't get the case to trial. And he not only indicted those charges, which undermined his ability to get the case to trial. He indicted like 3 dozen of them. So they'd be lucky if they get this case to trial in 2 years even if they didn't have all the immunity complications.
That's why I think he's a bad lawyer. I don't think he's dumb. I just think he's bad.
Yeah,
Andy, for the first time, 68 years old, for the first time in my life this week, I participated in a homeowners association meeting. And I did so because the HOA of which we are a member has been sued by a resident. And I called to tell them, based on 27 years as a land use lawyer, a bad settlement is better than a good lawsuit, and that HOA lawsuits eat up reserves and attorney's fees are at issue. Please settle. And then I hung up. That's good lawyering. That's just get out of this case. I don't see any good lawyering from Jack Smith, and I don't see any good judging other than our Florida judge who doesn't know Trump, and Trump made a point of telling me he'd never met Cannon.
Yeah, and the other thing, Hugh, is we watched that case carefully. A lot of people only have it from the filter of the coverage they've gotten from the usual suspects. If that was the only thing you knew about the case, you would assume that Cannon was in the tank for Trump. But if you actually watch the way the litigation played out, she ruled against Trump on a number of things. And by the way, I think when she ruled against Trump, she was right. And he would, on those claims, which were pretty standard pretrial defense motions, right? We're not talking about anything big, but she clearly was a judge who was playing it down the middle. And I would just point out to people who want to make this argument about her, she wrote a 93-page opinion on that appointments clause question, which was a masterful piece of work. I would say compare her opinion to what Jack Smith filed in the way of motions to generate the opinion and, make a decision about who did the heavy lifting kind of lawyering. The other thing I'd point out is where she came out on the appointments clause is the same place where Justice Thomas came out when he wrote about it in his concurrence in the immunity case. And it's the same place where Ed Meese comes out, Mike Mukasey comes out, I think Josh Blackman comes out. A lot of very good, very prominent lawyers who are scholars of the Constitution looked at this, and they came out where she came out.
Now, Andrew, I want to talk to you about the Chicago case because I don't know much about hate crimes prosecution. I just know that they can sometimes have constitutional difficulties with speech.
Yeah.
However, in Chicago, an Orthodox Jew is shot multiple times by a man caught on ring yelling Allah Akbar, and Chicago's prosecutor did not charge a hate crime. I'm astonished by that. I think it's a scandal. What do you think?
Well, I don't like hate crimes. But I think if you're going to have them, you have to apply it equally across the board. I've always been against hate crimes because I think the law is, especially if you're dealing with something that's heinous like murder, prove the murder. You're allowed to prove motive if it is relevant to the case. It's very useful in proving that an act was intentional. So it doesn't have to be, in every case, prosecutors are allowed to prove motive. And it's the law of sentencing that judges are always able to take into account any relevant factor about either the crime or the offender. So I don't think we ought to have hate crimes laws because all it does is invite you to politicize prosecutions. You have to be in the right group of people. All hates are not equal. Some hates are more equal than others. And then you have the problem that we now have, which is they play this game of, why aren't you charging a hate crime under these circumstances where it seems obvious that should be part of the offense if that's how you charge these cases. I think we'd be better off getting rid of all of it. Murder's a pretty serious thing under any circumstances.
Attempted murder, too. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're always able to prove why they did it. There's no.
It can be a sentence enhancement. I'm with you because it has been constitutionally challenged and struck down before in the Minneapolis case because we can't chill speech. Andy, I'd like you to stick around, and you get 30 seconds as we make the transition to come up with this. Donald Trump's probably going to have to staff the Department of Justice. I want models from you when we come back as to how he can have a DOJ that is good and follows the law. He's got to find an AG, a bunch of senior appointees. He's got to find U.S. attorneys. And I have a clue as to how to do this, but I want to know what you think. I'm back with Andy McCarthy to talk about DOJ. He's a veteran of the Southern District of New York. I'm a veteran of the AG's office, which means he knows things and I don't. All I did was Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act warrants. I don't know anything about civil division or anything like that. Andy, who ought Trump to look for to be his AG, his deputy AG, his associate AG, the head of national security, civil, antitrust, et cetera? Where is he going to find these people?
Well, you in the series that I just did about the future of lawfare, if Trump gets elected, I pointed out that what he really needs is a Bill Barr type. I know he's had a falling out with Bill Barr, and it doesn't have to be Bill Barr himself. But what you're going to have here is somebody who is smart, confident, knows all the levers at the Justice Department, and is not afraid to mix it up with subordinates who can be defiant. I think Trump's going to have a problem because the Democrats are going to be in charge of the Senate until January 3rd. If they try to get people confirmed during the transition, the Democrats will try to get promises out of them that they won't dismiss the cases against Trump, which of course they can't make. So he's going to have a very compressed time frame to get people confirmed, and it's vital that the Republicans carry the Senate. If they don't, he's going to have major problems, not just with the Justice Department, but across the board, because he needs to hit the ground running.
I read that, and I thought to myself, that's what prompted the question, because I think what he ought to do, I'll get your reaction to this, Andy, is go and collect all of the U.S. attorneys who served under him. There are people like Steve Cox and Tim Garrison, very fine prosecutors, put them in a pile and just populate the government with former United States attorneys who did a good job. You can't go wrong, can you?
No, but I think you have to line up, like, he desperately needs a very good attorney general, and the position that I'm most interested in is who's going to run the Civil Rights Division, because a lot of what's wrong with the Justice Department and the government, the font of a lot of that is the Civil Rights Division. You need to have a strong person in there who's going to defend everybody's civil rights and not play identity politics in there, and somebody who's strong enough to slug it out with the lawyers in the Civil Rights Division who are not going to be oriented the way Trump would want to run the Civil Rights Division. So I think that's a vital appointment. Obviously, the U.S. attorneys are important, but you have to rank the offices where the most cases are, because that's where you're going to have the most impact. But AG, Deputy AG, Solicitor General is important, but there's a lot of people,
good people,
can do that. But Civil Rights Division, and then places like New York, Chicago, L.A., any of these districts where you have these progressive prosecutors, you need a federal prosecutor who's going to go in there, make an impact, and show people in those places what it's like when the law actually gets enforced.
Amen. Because if he screws this up, we're screwed for 4 years. We can't do another. I like Jeff Sessions. We can't do another Jeff Sessions. Bill Barr won't be back. But you're absolutely right. Andy McCarthy, I have one complaint about the McCarthy report. You want to hear it?
Sure.
Do it more often.
I don't have. Yeah. I appreciate that.
Do it again and again and again. You and Rich should do it 3 times a week, because every time it comes up, I listen to all of it, and I need it because it's the smartest legal podcast out there. Thank you, Andy. Good to talk to you as always. Follow him at Andrew C. McCarthy over on X.
Thank you, Hugh.